we thought that this would work best as kind of a fireside chat atmosphere. And we've encouraged Stuart to be concise, but thoughtful, so that's good. But no, honestly, thank you all. We've got a very intimate group, and one of the things we're doing this evening is kind of trial running. What we really need to do is get a lot of people aware of Nebraska Transdiscipline College as quickly as we can. And so this is a sort of trial run to these open house events where we can pass along information. So we really appreciate your participation. We'll have Stuart give a few words of wisdom, and then we'll also have a bit of observations from the group, but really are interested in your feedback on what you feel about the progress we've made, and then we'll also have ways that you can get involved later. But before that, I want to recognize the fine young women from Alpha Zeta Delta sorority. We have a couple of them here this evening, correct?
Yes.
So they are helping us.
In the sorority.
Oh, you're not?
I live with Les.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. They're helping us with our marketing plan, and that is a huge, huge gift, so thank you very much. So, I told Stuart he could only respond when I ask him questions, so we'll get to it. Do you have any opening sorts of comments?
Yeah. I'm on?
Yeah, please.
Well, the cool thing about this is that you've all had a cup of coffee with me. So you all have that in common. So at some point in this journey, we've all sat down together to talk about what this mission is. And this right here is the culmination. Every day that we move forward is the new culmination of what we're creating. And it's exciting for me to be here to have this group gathered, and for me to see sort of the fruits of the labor. It was interesting, a conversation we had back here with Greg, and it's so true that we can no longer have one conversation at a time. I'm losing my voice. I'm happy to lose my voice. There's lots of people in this room would be happy if I lost my voice. But what it comes down to is we need everyone now to start communicating this message, because we grew outside the scale, and that's a big part of what we're doing here tonight, is to start encouraging more people to have these cups of coffee, and that's what we need. And looking beyond cups of coffee one-on-one. Now I'm looking at having the opportunities to have groups in front of me. And this is expanding to a rate that I would take another half an hour to explain it. But just through one conversation with Andrea Street and her dad, Andrea Street is part of her curriculum. Her dad is a very highly respected educator in the entire state, and he was an ESU director for special education. He knows all of the ESUs. If you aren't familiar with ESUs, they're clusters of specialized services throughout the state, and I think there's 10 of them in the state, something like that. And just through his email, I'm going to be going to Kearney on the 30th, out to Scotts Bluff, you're coming soon, and each time it's going to be with a group of special ed teachers and special ed coordinators. So my schedule is going to be filling up quickly, and my goal for this is to have your schedules also fill up quickly, and to start spreading the news, having that grow exponentially. So thank you for being here. It's really an incredible honor that I can never repay. The gratitude, I just do not have enough gratitude or the words to encapsulate it. To have you here means the world to me, and to further this vision. So I'm going to turn that back over to you.
And I should have mentioned at the outset, I actually have, my wife and I have been married for 21 years. We have 4 beautiful children, and one of them is on the autism spectrum. And if you have joined that fraternity, you know that you gave up on the idea of a perfectly manicured life years ago. And so this is a small group. We've all had experience with people who are outside of that perfectly manicured life. So I'm actually speaking for your benefit, Megan. Don't worry. If they make noise, it's fine. We'll just roll with it. We all just, we know that life isn't perfect. So it's wonderful. All right, so Stuart, in kind of a nutshell, can you tell everyone what the NTC is and why it's important?
So again, if you're not familiar with the mission statement, you can come right out here and read it on the banner. But essentially, we are going to be empowering individuals with an autism spectrum disorder or other learning difference to live individually, or to live independently through employment and community support systems. And that's in a nutshell what we're doing. Eventually, we'll get to the point where we have a 3-year integrated curriculum where upon graduation, our students will be able to live independently through employment and the community support systems. And that is all inclusive when we think community support systems. When you and I go to the YMCA, that's a community support system. When we go to the library, that's a community support system. This is a community support system. Everywhere we go is going to be integrated into our community. So to the extent to where that becomes a part of their life.
Excellent, thank you. So,
Are these test questions? Good. Nailing it.
So you've had coffee with everybody in this room at some point, and you've given them kind of an overview. What are the most recent developments? What are we really excited about? What's the reason why now is the right time to pull this group together?
I think, and I didn't know these questions before, so that's good. No, it's no wink. It's true. I think I hit on that earlier, and that is we have the people now. Just think about that. We have the people. And the amount of people who are helping us grows every day. And that's awesome. And if I had to make a choice between, if somebody came to me and said, hey, you want to build a college or do you want to write a check? I would write a check in a heartbeat, because over the course of 2 years, the amount of time and the effort that has gone into this is not looked back at with anything but excitement. But at the same time, what the point is that when we take a look at how difficult it is to do something like this, the difficult part is done. And it's getting there, and that is finding the people with the passion, sharing it, and finding people to join us. And we're finding people every day to join us more and more and more. And now it comes to the part of the development piece, where now we find people who are willing to invest in us, not just with time. Time is incredibly important, but now we need the resources, and now it's a part of the next stage. And the new development piece of that is to get to the place where we now have people ready to go out and communicate the message without me having to have a cup of coffee one-on-one. So to communicate the message in groups, and the developments there are just what I've said before with the ESUs. Talking to John Street and in groups of people. I expect that to grow exponentially over the next couple of months.
Okay. And we have a 501c3
Yes.
pending.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a nice prompt. So I feel like I'm so far away. I have to tell you, I had an interview. I'll come back. This is me. You all had coffee with me, so I'm going to go on a tangent.
Oh, really?
I know. I interviewed at Pleasanton for a superintendent position. I'll never forget it, because it's 6 hours interviews. 6 hours of interviews. And you start with the board, you go to the community, you go to the teachers, and in each one there's a big room with about 20 people spanned in front of you and a large open space and a table clear in the back, and that's where we sit. And I was the only one of the candidates who got rid of the table and moved right up to where the people are, because I feel disconnected. I guess the sucky part of that, I didn't get the job. But maybe that's okay. That's okay. Distance. So the 501c3, we submitted our application for that. It's incredibly important. 80 pages worth of documentation, a lot of work, budgets, you name it, went over it, submitted it, received notification from the IRS that they've received it. They cashed my check right away. $850 cash, like the next day. But we have a letter dated September 25th that said you will receive news from us either within 90 days or 180 days, depending on if you did it right or if you didn't. And my excitement there is that the letter is dated September 25th, and 90 days from that is December 24th. So I'm hoping that that's our Christmas present. And so the importance of that is once we receive that, it adds legitimacy. You know, it adds that piece that so many folks are looking for when it comes to applying for grants and things like that. So we're hoping to hear back from them. And the IRS is going to stay at their word, and they're going to get news back to us in another month and a half or so.
Excellent, excellent. And so, when are we looking to host students to begin?
September 2019 is our goal. So there's a lot of work needs to be done to that point. Through the incredible work of our curriculum committee, really everyone. I mean, you stop to think of what we need to do here, and when you take a look at every aspect, you just want to build a college? Okay. What does that mean? I didn't know. It's a good thing I didn't, because that means HR. You got to develop your entire HR program, policies, procedures, you name it. We've got a fantastic person who's taken complete charge of that, Dan Williams. Development. You know, we've got an incredible Darren McAfee who's taken part of that. But then when it comes down to our students, we've got our curriculum committee, and that's Jesse and Sam and Andrea, and I guess I'm on that too. And Mike's on that too. But you're working for students. It all comes down to working for students, right? So we're planning that curriculum out. We've already met a few times, and we've got the big rocks uncovered of what that curriculum is going to look like. And the plan there is to bring our program director on board for our first fiscal year, which will be July 1st, and name the executive director, bring the program director on, and have that first year to completely design our curriculum. And Andrea would be in charge of doing all of that, in addition to pulling in all kinds of community members to plan that curriculum. And then the vision is for that first year, through that first fiscal year, and then students coming on board September 2019. That's the plan.
Okay. And Sam, did you want to talk about the curriculum?
Yes,
and
he
the
does.
process?
Right here, Dan.
Oh boy.
What's it like sitting over here?
I'm not gonna sit.
Nice.
I need to stand. I can't sit.
You can, that's fine.
I want to do an exercise real quick. Talk through what you had to do to get here tonight. Got in your car, drove, found the building,
Found the
came
right
up in the
elevator.
right elevator, not like me, and stood there pressing the button over and over, waiting for the elevator to never come. But you had to work through a series of processes that we've learned through experience. So if you happen to have autism or another learning difference, do you develop those same skills the same way? Maybe. Maybe not. That's why we're here. That's why the work we're doing is so important. We're going to be a movement, a focus, a leverage for people who have differences to gain access to their communities. I'm passionate about that. It drives me every day. And I hope that by being involved, you feel the same way. Our programming is focused on being community-based. We're not facility-based, we're not working out of a classroom, we're working in the environment that individuals want to be in every day. So whether it's something as simple as learning how to ride the bus, to navigating social situations, to finding employment and having success, we're going to be there to support these individuals in doing so.
Switch.
Yep.
Can I add one note?
Absolutely.
To Sam's point, keep in mind that we've got a mission statement, but the vision is much bigger. So when the kids, our students, graduate from our college, they will graduate into what we call a community living program. So if they ever have a crisis at work or need reemployment help or anything that happens during that course, we can be there for them to step in. While that's wonderful, it's limiting in that if we only have one place, one community, one campus, then they have to live here to be a part of that program. Well, when you and I graduated college, we had the opportunity to make a choice. Where do I want to live? We want to give that choice to these students too. Everything that you and I have had the opportunity to do That's the goal for these students. So if we extrapolate that out, then that means we have to have more campuses. So Nebraska Transition College Lincoln campus, Nebraska Transition College Omaha campus, and then you can start seeing it expand. Florida Transition College, California Transition College. The wonderful thing is that our curriculum is going to be designed as such that when other places are interested in doing this, it's free. All they have to do is write a letter saying, you know, we want to do this. They don't have to go through 2 years of whacking away the weeds, trying to find our way to get to where we are today. They build a board, we consult with them, and bam, we've got a campus. Now when they graduate, we can ask them, where do you want to live? Tampa Bay? Awesome. Same curriculum, same community living development program. Just find your way down there, we'll help you get there, and you're involved.
What about that continuing on community piece? I mean, so if they come to Nebraska Transition College and they spend some period, well, first of all, how long would they spend with us? And then second part of that question is, then what? What is the ultimate vision for these?
So there's going to be 2 parts, but I think I'm going to bring Sam up here to talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So NTC at its core is a 3-year program. Residential, vocational, community living. We want to support individuals to live an independent lifestyle as possible. Whatever that means, it's varying levels and should be. But helping individuals achieve what their goals are through person-centered planning to be successful in whatever life they choose to have. So that'd be the initial piece, a 3-year program. And then we would have the community living partnership, which individuals would be eligible to access afterwards. Again, kind of like, I think the best way I can describe it is a la carte service. What do you need? How can we best support you? Is that checking in once a week? Is that daily reminders? Did you take your medication? Do you know what time you're supposed to work today? But carving it out for those individuals to where they feel supported and successful in whatever life they choose.
It's limited.
It is limited. I'd like input. Yeah, please.
Okay, my turn.
We're kind of crowdsourcing this.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Chittenden. I currently work for another NTC, Nebraska Total Care, but in a previous lifetime, I used to work for the ARC of Nebraska. So the alternatives, if not this college, is that individuals go through an extended learning period through high schools, public education, called transition as well. And they do that till 21. And during that time, they try to access waiver dollars, Medicaid waiver dollars, so that they can get into residential programs and day programs that are run by the state or those private providers that contract through the state.
You said try, so is
Try.
that easy to do?
It's not easy to do. Thank you. Good catch. Currently in the state of Nebraska, the residential waiver has approximately 7 to 8 year wait list. Day program used to be guaranteed, but that has recently changed. And now that will be put on a wait list. We don't know how long that's going to be because it's a new transition, so we'll see how that goes as people go into the queue, but they'll be 4th in the queue on the waiver list. People with that need emergency services would be first, life and health and safety issues. And that makes sense. So the state's not doing a horrible job, but they're trying to manage a situation that could be much better managed as we go through the transition process. When I say we, typical people, we graduate high school, we either get into an apprenticeship or some sort of a job, or we go to college where we maximize our talents and learn about the things that interest us, and then move on into the workforce. And through that, it's integrated with relationships and family and friends and significant others that help us through that process. So I think that's the vision that we want to present with the Nebraska Total Care, as opposed to getting into a system. We want to see a more typical lifestyle for people with disabilities, whether that be autism or other learning difficulties.
Look at me. I'm gonna go in on that. I worked in a school for 7 years. Now I work for a service provider in Omaha. And what I saw was students would have access to education through the age of 21 under an IEP, and then they would fall off a cliff. And we see that time and time again. They have great services. The parents know what to expect. They know where it's located. They know what it is, and then it's gone. We are that next step. We're that typical experience for that student who needs our support. We're there to emulate a college experience, to provide them training, support, safety in an environment that they want to be at.
Now, the only thing I would add is that I don't think there's anybody in this room who would be foolish enough to think that the government is there to solve our problems. And they aren't. They're certainly providing some safety nets. But I think through our actions, and I think that's where that solution is the actions of those of us sitting in this room to present a solution. I think that's where the real power of this comes from, is for us to step up. If we don't, who is going to? If not now, when? If not us, who? And that's really comes down to Nebraska Transition College. And one point to the services, the research that I did, that Heather and I did, when we went down to Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center, SART, we found that there's a 7-year waiting period, but the research shows very significantly that these students, when they graduate from college, they've got a 2-year window. If they don't get involved in some sort of post-secondary education experience or employment within 2 years after graduating high school, a large majority of these kids give up and they live in their parents' basement until their parents die, and then they become a ward of the state. And so I don't think that's acceptable, and that's why the entire movement. And so it's a 7-year waiting period, but there's a 2-year window. The math doesn't add up, and so we need to affect that.
So in a moment, we're going to tell you what we'd love all of you to help with specifically. But before we do that, we will invite questions from folks because, again, we're crowdsourcing this. We're figuring out what is interesting to all of you. But before that even, Cindy Mowry is another new board member. Cindy, would you like to share, or Alyssa, what you're most excited about with this project?
In case you didn't know, Stuart, like, Alyssa is your biggest fan. Like, you speak and she's like, what? She's in the back just, we need a whole room of her. And kids in high school, the transition programs, they were like, oh no, and then she's like, a waiting list, that sucks. And I'm like,
I agree.
You're right, it does suck, and that's why we're here.
You summed it
Come
up
over here, buddy.
in 10 seconds. That was fantastic.
Right. So I also share in being one of the newest board members of Nebraska Transition College. My name is Cindy Mowry, and my daughter is Alyssa Mowry. And Alyssa has, we knew she had a disability around age 4. When she got into kindergarten, we realized she had a severe learning disabilities. Then over the years, it just kind of kept growing and building, and then we got diagnosed with Rett syndrome, atypical Rett syndrome, when she was 14. So from there, we just continued moving on the path we already were. We were part of Millard School Districts, which is a great school district in Omaha. But as a mother, as you're talking about all this stuff, in my mind, honestly, I had my last IEP with school, and you know, they're like, okay, you know, next year will be your last year, and I'm like, we're just not even going to talk about that. Like, I am in total denial, like, because I am scared to death. I really am. So we're looking for options, and we want there to be options for Alyssa. So enough about me. I mean, she is my why. She is the reason I'm here today. She is the reason that I will work harder than I should be at work every day on NTC. But Alyssa, maybe if you could tell a little about yourself to everybody.
I like swimming, bowling, horseback riding.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
No.
Do you have a dog?
Yes.
Do you like to take care of the dog?
Yes.
Yeah. So Alyssa's very active, very social. She wants to do something all the time. And we do have her in a lot of different activities. So where do you go to school right now?
The Melody Adult Program.
And what year are you in?
2 years.
Yeah, you're in your 2nd year.
second year.
And when you graduated from high school, did you want to go to college?
Yes.
And why didn't you?
I don't know.
Was there an option for you?
No.
I didn't train her to say all this stuff. She says this stuff on a daily basis. Well, Alyssa heard from her pediatrician that they had developed a college like this in Wisconsin. And so I'm not kidding you guys, for like a solid 2 years, this is all she talked about to every person she met, how she was going to move away and go to Wisconsin to school. Which is great if it wasn't 8-ish hours away. That didn't seem like a really good option for us. So, not an option, need something closer, and we're just looking for what's the next step for Alyssa Mowry. And coincidentally, she will be out of the young adult program in 2019.
Hey.
Alyssa, anything else? Why do you want to go to school more? Why do you want to go to college?
To meet new people, be with friends, and see what it looks like.
Do you want to live at home for the rest of your life?
No!
I don't know why. Okay, that's, I think, all we have.
Thank you.
Lissa, do you have anything else to say?
No.
She keeps saying, what do we say when we say Team NTC? What do you keep saying?
What is it?
Do you say, let's do this?
Let's do this.
She'll just keep going, when are we doing this? What's going on? Are you done? I'm like, okay. But thank you. Nice meeting you. Thanks for coming.
So why don't we grill, oh, Stuart. So why don't we open it up for a few questions? I mean, what is most foremost on your mind as you wonder what we're up to and what our direction is?
This is how
Help
thorough-
us out. We gotta develop this dog and pony show here.
This is how thorough I've been in my coffee conversation.
No follow-up needed. So if I want to share this message tomorrow morning in coffee to someone that I run into, and it's that quick that I run into an opportunity for a conversation, what do I say?
Well, I've got my sentence. And it's a pretty good one,
Okay.
because I had somebody help me with it, and his name was Greg Hackbar. But you know, we empower individuals with an autism spectrum disorder or other learning difference to live independently through employment and community support systems. You know, Sam, help me out. What would you say? I'll bring it to you.
Our mission is to fill a need to support individuals with autism and other learning differences to be integrated within a community utilizing natural supports. So pretty much the same thing.
All comes back to community supports. You know, I've got a dissertation you can read if you ever have sleepless nights.
Do you like to read?
But what I can tell you is, and Heather and I found this when we were really excited when we interviewed employers down in Phoenix, and SARC, Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center, is specifically autism based. So that's their sole focus. And we interviewed 5 employers who have employed students from SARC into their business. And the focus of the research was to find out what they were doing right to help these employees succeed. And what we learned, you know, when you start these things, you kind of follow the questions wherever they go. And there were some really amazing results of that research. And we found out that when first you have to dispel the myths. Employers are scared, to be quite honest. They just don't know what they don't know. And you know, first you have to go and say, look, one of the biggest things is accommodations. They think that they're going to have to spend a ton of money on accommodations. But the largest majority of accommodations are $50 or less, one-time expense. So also what we found is that when these folks are employed, they become the best employees because they don't get any opportunities. Hey, Doug.
Sorry.
Good to see you. Doug
Sorry.
Carey, one of our
Very
charter
good.
board members. Good to see you, Doug. So the first thing is they become the best employees. and they never miss a day, because they are so appreciative of the fact that somebody took a chance and employed them. And so they are now have the ability to reach the potential. The second thing is that we found that the neurotypical employees find that they got to get on top of their game, because they've just discovered that they are not the best employees. And so they become better employees. And they also have discovered that the employees who were most of the time just on their own, when given the opportunity to help, they found a way for altruism to blossom. They become involved in these people's lives. They help them, and they find avenues to help others. And then the employers themselves found that once they've taken a chance to learn and dispel the myths and hire people with disabilities, they find that they want to do more. I thought that was one of the most amazing pieces, is that these employers, once they took this chance, they discovered that they wanted to do more in the community. A nice side note is that these businesses all had increased patronage, because as soon as people found out that these people were hiring people with disabilities, they started visiting the stores more. They started patronizing them more, because everybody discovered that they're doing it right. They're doing the right thing. So
I want to take a crack at that.
yes.
So the question was, if I bump into somebody at coffee and they say, and you said, man, I was at the Nebraska Transition College last night event, and they say, well, what is that? What he said, certainly, but then also check out our brand new website at nebraskatransitioncollege.org.
That's
correct?
a perfect, I guess if you want to say that. Or you
Follow
could-
us on Facebook.
Yes, yes.
Where else will we be? Everywhere?
Instagram tomorrow morning, probably.
Instagram.
Twitter.
Excellent.
Twitter.
Twitter.
You name it. That's, I tell you, when I met with AZD, the next morning, what's that?
I don't know. Are we going to be on Snapchat? Does anybody know that?
Maybe once the school opens.
Once the school opens, yeah.
School.
But it's the day, I met with AZD on an evening, and the next day, and literally the next morning, we had a website mock-up. So, and now it's live. And there just happens to be a PayPal button out there. You just click on it. It's a beautiful yellow button, you just click on it. It just tells you a nice little word or two. Hi, beautiful, how are you?
And another way you can be involved is, this was kind of a trial run, as I said. We're hoping to do these on a regular basis. I don't know, monthly, every other month.
Daily.
But we need to spread the message widely and quickly. And so if you run into somebody and you think they would be interested, regardless of, one thing, so Stuart referenced I have a background in fundraising. And the biggest thing to keep in mind when you are asking people to get involved in your cause is, don't make somebody's decision for them. Don't think to yourself, they've already got enough charities in mind. They don't have the means. Because the first step is getting as many people under the tent as possible. And if you do that, then people who have assets, resources, or access to programs and those kinds of things, they will find a way to get involved. They will get excited, and they will take it upon themselves to be engaged. So we want to get as many people under the tent as possible. Next time we have one of these, we want to fill this room. We'd love it if every one of you could commit to inviting at least a couple of people to come to the next one, and we just need to start spreading the message. Did that answer your question?
I think so.
Do you have a follow-up?
Also on the website, there's an information page. You go all the way to the bottom, you can say, send us your name and number.
I'll volunteer and
Please.
I'm out over the line.
We brought you on board for your sales.
Be careful what you wish for. I think I would say that at least certainly the three of us could put together even what I would call a cheat sheet or a set of bullets and really some good statistics for you to have in your back pocket. Because I get very passionate, so you may have to hold me down, but this is the key group. This is it, right? I mean, we can make a huge difference here, and it's all about just introducing people to the idea and the concept. It's not heavy lifting. It's as simple as wow. And to what Darren said, the times that I've disqualified people in my life to that are the ones I wish I would have, or the times I go, oh, well, I'll throw this out here, it's gonna be embarrassing, it's gonna be stupid. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that. You have no idea how this impacts my life. And this is the moment right here, the catalyst, the beginning, the fun, where to me it's 1 + 1 = 7. And I love getting involved in 1 + 1 = 7 situations. And this is it, because it's not just the students are the big part of this that we're helping, but it's so much bigger than that. The way that it helps the community, the way that it helps businesses, the way that it helps impact so many lives is huge from my perspective. So I think we can provide a sheet, so even if it's as simple as, man, I'd love to have someone that knows even more about this stuff, share some more ideas. Yes, reach out to Stuart and we set something up and a follow-up coffee and things like that. But just to get things started right now is huge for us.
Well, you cued something on my mind. I'll riff on that for a second, but there's a tidal wave coming. What is it? 50,000
50,000
on the
students
spectrum every year.
Every year graduate high school on the spectrum into a nothingness void. And they expect that to continue to 2023.
And so we all are in on the ground floor of the solution. There's a problem coming. We've talked a lot about emphasizing, the opportunities for kids, that people deserve, the kids deserve things. My son deserves a great life. He deserves more than just being locked in my basement for the rest of his life. But we've also, what you said, we've got a higher purpose here too. We are part of a solution to a problem that's coming up, and that's exciting. What other questions? My phone just buzzed at 7 o'clock, and we promised you 7, but if anybody needs to get running, you can, but I'd love to hear more thoughts.
Darren's awesome to have. So I don't want everyone to leave here unless we know exactly what we're asking them to do and who are they going to be contacting and reaching out to me. What's the next action step?
Sure. 2 things, but first a comment. So the next mile marker on our journey is to get the curriculum specialist in place. And that is, we hope, for July 1st of 2018. So this is not a far off in the future thing. This is a here and now. In order to do that, the person we have in mind, there may be a process, I don't know, we won't get bogged down in the details, but anybody who we invite to be a curriculum specialist is already gainfully employed or will want to be gainfully employed, so we need to be able to pay that person. So we need dollars quickly. Our goal is to get $160,000 by July 1st, sooner if we can. We have the 501c3 that we're pursuing. We have other ways to receive gifts in the meantime, but we really need 2 things. We need what I mentioned earlier. We need everybody to talk about Nebraska Transition College to at least 2 people. Stuart's got your emails. We will be sure you know about the next one of these events. If you can't wait that long, give Stuart a message and he can have coffee with people. But also consider a gift. And you don't have to be wealthy to make a difference. We just ask everyone to go to the website, check out that donate page, and consider a gift of a meaningful amount for whatever your personal circumstances are. If you would be willing to do those 2 things, that would have a tremendous impact.